There's a search underway for whomever set fire to 2 ballot drop boxes in 2 different states.
October surprise! October surprise! Is there going to be an October surprise? Or is it likely that there will be a MAGA Trump victory? Will there be electoral fraud? Will there be some peculiar event that prevents the election from taking place? There's just a matter of days to go now. Is it concerning that some people are reporting that mail-in ballot boxes have been spontaneously combusting? You know, we're living in a time where there's been a sort of willfully induced sense of humour bypass. You can't make jokes about this. You can't make comments about that. You can't even light-heartedly endorse a magical EMF-resistant amulet without people going to paroxysms of confusion and rage. So these are indeed strange times. Is the October surprise spontaneous conflagration of ballot boxes? Let's have a little look at it, baby.
All right, breaking news, a search underway for whomever set fire to 2 ballot drop boxes in 2 different states. So the fires were in Washington State and Oregon and destroyed hundreds of ballots. And authorities at this hour believe the 2 fires are connected. And they've actually identified what they say is a suspect vehicle tied to the incidents. That is according to the latest reporting out of the Associated Press this hour. And it actually comes days after a mailbox fire in the swing state of Arizona damaged multiple ballots. Tonight, the FBI and the DHS are warning of, quote, domestic violent extremists who want to terrorize the voting process, with election workers being potential targets.
Officials are saying that there appear to be 3 different instances that are linked. The ones that we're hearing about today that took place in Oregon as well as Washington, and one that took place earlier this month in Washington State, where there was an incendiary device that was somehow attached to these ballot drop boxes and caused, these kinds of videos that we're seeing here, these flames and ballots burning. In Oregon, they said it was just 3 ballots that were impacted and that they've reached out to the people who were impacted. And in Washington State, though, they said there are hundreds. And so they're basically telling people, if you cast your ballot over the weekend in this drop box, to check the ballot tracker online. These are both states that conduct their elections predominantly by mail. And of course, in Washington, we have seen this very hotly contested congressional race. And Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez put out a statement. She's one of the candidates, of course, in this hotly contested race, saying, I'm requesting an overnight law enforcement presence be posted at all ballot drop boxes in Clark County through Election Day. Southwest Washington cannot risk a single vote being lost to arson and political violence. And Wolf, these drop boxes, again, we don't know the exact motivation behind these efforts, but they have just become targets for misinformation, claims from the right that there is rampant voter fraud. That hasn't been proven out, but we have seen the Department of Homeland Security warn that these kind of drop boxes are targets for domestic violent extremists. So, we'll wait to see. Officials are investigating locally. The FBI is investigating. We'll see what comes of those investigations.
Yeah. Note the complexion of this election and where your attention is being taken to. We're being invited to be outraged by the remarks of a comedian and distracted perhaps from bigger and broader issues, whether that's ballot boxes suddenly bursting into flames, to the benefit of whom? Let me know in the comments and chat who you think would be the most likely beneficiaries of any electoral fraud, presumably the side that would be unlikely to win unless there was electoral fraud. Both of the recent elections have subsequently been contested by the losers, whether it was Hillary and the Russiagate stuff after Trump's election in 2016 or Trump complaining of election fraud in 2020. It seems that electoral fraud is a threat that both sides are concerned about and both sides magnify dependent on the outcome of the election itself. But what I believe is important to us as awakening wonders, as people that are interested in deeper and therefore more authentic power, deeper even than state power, deeper even and wider and broader than global and corporatist power, the real power that governs and controls the world, plainly and evidently, are obviously some sort of connection with the divine and sublime, so that we have the power and resources to oppose this Luciferian, peculiar, what do I want to call it? It's some kind of phosphorescent nightmare bleaching away our ability to read reality, and also to know how real power operates. Now, there's been an interesting conversation between Rachel Maddow and Victoria Nuland. Victoria Nuland, if you don't know, is a neocon and former Assistant Secretary of State who worked under Bush, Republican, Obama, Democrat, Biden, Democrat. Nuland agitated for endless war in Afghanistan, you'll remember that about her, and Iraq, and subsequently Ukraine. She is one of the figures that I believe operates in the liminal spaces where real power can be found. So when you're talking about something that is sort of exciting, a carnival and significant, like the forthcoming election in your country, what we have to remain focused on is real power, deep state power, globalist power, corporate power. And we must learn to note and diagnose its symptoms and its avatars when they put their heads above the parapet, as they have done here. Victoria Nuland appearing with Rachel Maddow, who appears to be a willing participant in the amplification of messaging that facilitates the ongoing domination of globalism. That's how I would see her. Let me know what you think of Rachel Maddow in the comments right now. Let's have a look at this conversation between Victoria Nuland, an avatar of power, a symptom of global corruption, and Rachel Maddow.
Third election in a row in which Russia has tried to interfere to try to get Trump into the White House. How do you assess the magnitude and the type of interference they're attempting this year compared to what they've done in his previous two elections?
Well, as you said earlier, Rachel, he's at it again. This time he's not even trying to hide his hand, and he has far more sophisticated tools. You know, his AI is better, so he can make these fake videos. He has done things like spend $10 million trying to buy American influencers and get them parroting his lines and not even know it's happening. But he's also got a brand new, very, very powerful tool, which is Elon Musk and X. You know, in 2020,
we used to be able to control that platform, as the Twitter files revealed. The FBI and CIA were controlling stories or amplifying stories dependent on our requirements. One obvious example, the most obvious, being the Hunter Biden laptop story that we were pre-bunked into believing was false, when in fact we knew it was true all along. And it's not interesting simply because of the salacious impact of stories about crack and prostitution, etc., but because there were indications within it of deep entrenched corruption within the Biden family and the malfeasant misuse of political power by Joe Biden. But that don't matter anymore, because you're not fighting against Joe Biden, you're fighting against the next cipher, Kamala Harris. Now, until people like Maddow and Nuland are willing to acknowledge that the Democrat Party themselves are deeply enmeshed and webbed into sets of power that are so corrupt that attacking just one side makes you seem like you don't have a proper purview, we're not going to get decent media. We're not going to get decent elections. Remember, what we are here to advocate for in this channel is your individual awakening, your connection to something that's transcendent of mere management, mechanical bureaucracies there to implement materially the will of an electorate that's plainly become bolted onto globalist corporate power. We're here to advocate for true change, real change. Do you sometimes feel a bit older than you actually are? Even today, I had a little bit of a compliment. I told someone my age, I'm not telling you it, and they went, "You can't be that old." Do you know why? Field of Greens, baby. Field of Greens is an organic superfood fruit and vegetable drink. It's serious nutrition. Field of Greens was approved for a university study that doctors believe may lower your body's biological age, which generally means better health. Each and every fruit or vegetable in Field of Greens was selected by a doctor in order to create the perfect concoction for health and biological invigoration. Only Field of Greens is backed by this better health promise. At your next checkup with your doctor, if you can get one, unless they say you're looking healthier than ever, Field of Greens will give you your money back. Join me, I'm doing this stuff, in Better Health and get 15% off your next order and free shipping by visiting Brickhouse Russell. I'm always baffled by that. BrickhouseRussell.com and use the promo code BRAND. BrickhouseRussell.com, use the promo code BRAND. Promo code BRAND, my name, at BrickhouseRussell.com for better health. Why we're not asking the relevant questions, in so much as this, I would consider this to be a relevant one. If we are right now in a set of global wars, Ukraine v Russia, the events in the Middle East, what's escalating over there in China, and Kamala Harris is in office, why are we not doing anything about that now? With the BRICS summit taking place, looking like there are going to be new alliances between Russia, Brazil, India, China, serious countries with serious populations, aren't we going to address that this looks to be a kind of epochal event, a precipice of real change? What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Shouldn't we be, indeed, if there is an appetite for America to be a kind of, not if not isolationist, prioritizing the domestic issues, prioritizing the interests of Americans. Shouldn't we listen to the will of the people? What is this bizarre globalist agenda? Because we don't believe anymore that it's humanitarian. We don't believe you're going in all these countries to help people, Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan, Iraq, Ukraine. We don't buy that. There's always a dark agenda concealed behind the false Luciferian light of whatever you claim. So unless you're willing to start tackling those problems, you can't galvanize people to vote for the Democrat Party unless you do it by saying that Trump is Hitler and Tony Hinchcliffe is Goebbels.
The social media companies worked hard with the U.S. government to try to do content moderation, to try to catch this stuff as it was happening. But this time we have Elon Musk talking directly to the Kremlin and ensuring that every time the Russians put out something like this, it gets 5 million views on X before anybody can catch it. So it's quite dangerous. Although I do think the American electorate has gotten more sophisticated and more savvy about this stuff.
We certainly have. We've had to, because we now know that Mark Zuckerberg was in communication with Anthony Fauci during the pandemic, and they censored true information because that true information might prevent you from getting a vaccine, or it might prevent you from cooperating during a lockdown. The reason we've become more savvy is because we've had to, because our governments and media have been lying to us. That's why we go to Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson or even like Sam Cedar or who's the other one, Dave Pacman, depending on our tastes. And of course, some of those regions have gotten infiltrated by globalism and corporatism. We are interested in a different type of message, a different type of media, a different type of society. There's an appetite for it. There's a longing for it. There's the possibility of it. We can, in fact, change the world. But in order to change the world, we're going to have to bypass corrupt, centralized media. We're going to have to bypass statism, and we're going to have to bypass global corporatism. And as a person that believes now more than I would previously have thought conceivable that the best chance we have of challenging globalism is to support the MAGA movement, to support Bobby Kennedy, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, because I think they are more likely to disrupt the real powers that control our political systems and therefore our lives. Whilst I'm beginning to recognise that, my hope will be that we get more explicit information that they are going to take on Pfizer. Because if you see my conversation with Naomi Wolf, you will recognise that is what needs to happen. Pfizer are flat out corrupt, flat out lying to us. People like Fauci and Baller should be in jail, man. And the fact that we're not having that conversation, we're instead worrying about whether Tony Hinchcliffe is a genuine hater of Puerto Ricans. But he doesn't think about it very much. That's what I would say. I don't think Tony Hinchcliffe falls asleep at night going, oh, those Puerto Ricans. I don't think anybody has time to harbour that kind of hate anymore. Most of us are too concerned about impending Armageddon. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube, remember, turn on the notification bell because the algorithm will direct you towards propaganda. That's what the algorithm is for.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.